What an epic weekend. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Hope everybody's week is off to a good start after you celebrated all weekend long like me. The Philadelphia Eagles are world champions. That's not going to get old, but the coverage still continues here because the content game doesn't stop. So coming up on today's show, it's a loaded one. The Birds making several roster moves after winning Super Bowl 59 and just smacking Kansas City on the chin. We have some Eagles coaching news to get to that could be pretty significant for Nick Sirianni's staff, as Kellen Moore is trying to build his staff with New Orleans, and he could be poaching some Eagles assistants to come with him down to the Big Easy. The Eagles got some great news on Lane Johnson during the Eagles Super Bowl parade, and I'm going to explain what that parade was like. A scene and a day that I will never forget, and it was a wild weekend as Friday, parade day, goes down as one of the best days of my life. Not a hyperbolic statement, and I know a lot of you can relate to me on that. Before we dive in, just want to say thank you so much to all of the real ones for your continued support of the show. The 2024 season ending with the Super Bowl championship, the best year and season in the history of Eagles Now for a guy who grew up in Westchester right outside of Philly, lifelong Eagles fan, went to Temple to cover this team professionally, number one, to be around this team in New Orleans for Super Bowl week number 2, and to see it culminate and wrap up with the Eagles dethroning the Chiefs. Magical season for me. And to see the channel have this much success. I mean, I grew up dreaming of covering the Eagles. We're now over 111,000 subscribers, and the coverage is going to continue. Yeah, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl, but the NFL has pretty much become a year-round sport at this point. The NFL Combine is next week in Indianapolis, so draft prep already starts. For Nick Sirianni, Howie Roseman, the front office, and the coaching staff, I'm probably going to be in Indy covering the Combine. Then there's NFL free agency in March, NFL draft in April. The title defense is on for the Eagles, and I have you covered every step of the way. So you know what I need you to do? If you haven't already done so, go on down and hit that subscribe button. Let's start off with Parade Day. I'll never forget it. A magical, magical scene. The vibes, immaculate. The sights and sounds, unbeatable. Kelly and Midnight Green, everywhere. And it's pretty incredible to be in an environment in the great city of Philadelphia, America's birthplace, a place that loves sports, in an Eagles town, and to see 1.5 million people all happy and smiling, all supporting one another, all relating to one another, coming together to celebrate something so special. And that's the second Lombardi trophy that belongs to this Eagles organization, and the second parade down Broad Street, down the Parkway, ending at the Art Museum with some epic Eagles speeches. I'll never forget it. One of the best days of my life, to be around Eagles fans, to meet up with some people who watch the show, to be recognized by people who watch the show, to meet up with the great Peter Thurman, a real one, have a couple of drinks with him, to be with some people who I care about, lifelong friends, and all of us going through the heartaches and the tears and the heartbreaks, the highs, the lows, the celebrations, the down moments, the depressing and sad moments, the victories, the trials and tribulations, and now Super Bowl championships, to be able to celebrate that with some people who you really care about, you can't beat it. And it was a day that I never wanted to end. I didn't want to go to sleep. And I woke up the next morning and I said to myself, I want to run that back. Because it's very rare that you wake up at 6:30, lasted until about 12:30 a.m. 1, and from the moment I opened my eyes until the time I fell to sleep, I was on this incredible high that'll go down as one of the greatest days of my life. In the city of Philadelphia, it just means more. Eagles fans worldwide all came together to celebrate that championship. And we felt as though we were a part of it, that we were a part of the team. And Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, and the Eagles players will tell you the same thing. And they said as much in their speeches after the Super Bowl and during the parade. Philadelphians and Eagles fans helped play a role in the Eagles winning that Super Bowl. Supporting the team at home, supporting the team on the road, and then when I'm in New Orleans, I'm looking around and it's 80%, 90% Eagles fans. There isn't another fan base in the world that could bring the heat and the passion like we did. And so I partied this weekend like I was a member of the team that won the Super Bowl, going hard all weekend. And then last night, Sunday night, I slept 9.5 hours. It's the most that I have slept in years, and I needed it. But all throughout the weekend, as I'm taking down some drinks, chopping it up with some friends, being out and about in the city, all I kept saying was, we're effing champions, man. Like A.J. Brown said, you could say what you want to say about me, but what you have to get right, I'm a world effing champion. Epic stuff. And so on Friday, woke up at 6:30 a.m., went for a run on the Schhuylkill River Trail, had a view of the skyline in the City of Champions. It was perfect. And what was crazy is that from that early in the morning, you sense the energy and the vibe of the city. Even though it was that early, there were people lining up to get subs and hoagies at Wawa. People were getting coffee at Starbucks. People were already on the road walking around trying to get their parade spot. People were up and at it, ready to have a day. And I walked from South Street, where my boy Philly D has a spot at, to Broad Street and took a subway from Center City to South Philly. At that point, the parade started at 11 a.m. As early as like 8:39, the city and the parade route was packed. And from Center City, they still had multiple hours until the Eagles floats came by. And so my plan of attack, because I wanted to get content for the channel, be sure to check out the parade video, which is up on Eagles Now right now. May have missed it over the weekend. My plan of attack, get a subway from Center City down to South Philly, Broad and Pattison to see the start of the parade because it started at the Link. So we were right by the sports complex, right on Broad and Pattison in South Philly. Watch the Eagles floats at the start of the parade. Gather some interviews, get some footage of the entire Eagles team going down the parade route. Hop back on the subway, go to City Hall. And I was right by City Hall in the Parkway for a second go around to see the floats again, to get some more content, interview some people. And it was pretty neat because in South Philly, more of a family atmosphere, and it wasn't as packed, which was great because you got a great vantage point of the Eagles going by. I threw a beer about 30 yards on a dime, Miller Lite pounder, right to Jalix Hunt, right here, and he dropped it. That's why he plays defense. That was my highlight down there, at least one of them. Had a speech with the fan that went viral on X, doing a Jason Kelce impersonation, talking about how everybody doubted the Birds. It got like 500,000 views on X. It's crazy. And so we go back to Center City, and there were cranes with speakers hanging from them, just bumping music. And from the family environment in South Philly to more of the party atmosphere in Center City, it was nuts. People are dancing. People are taking down drinks, taking shots. I saw people drinking tequila out of the bottle, Hennessy out of the bottle. People are smoking blunts and joints. It was a party, and I could have been there all day. Now, we were there for a couple of hours until the parade route caught up to us once again, but I just wanted that to go all day. And so saw the Eagles go by again, went back to my buddy's house to watch the parade speeches, which the local TV stations have to do a better job. I get it. There are FCC rules about players cursing during their speeches, but they had to interject and mute it every time a player cursed, and Fox was apologizing for every curse word, so we pretty much missed a lot of the bulk of the speeches because once there was a curse word, they cut out. It's like, let it fly, man. Nobody's complaining. The Eagles are Super Bowl champs. Nobody cares that the players are cursing. This is Philly. Come on. We're low maintenance. And so edited our parade video from there while watching the speeches and then went back out, and we just went bar hopping the rest of the night. Center City, South Street area, starting Eagles chants everywhere. Everybody was drinking all day, immaculate vibes. Everybody was happy and positive. To see that and be a part of it, man, it's just something that's going to be etched in my brain forever. And then on Saturday, went on a 4-mile run somehow because I probably had 15 beers throughout the day, a couple of shots of whiskey, and I ran to the art museum as it was snowing, which I thought was pretty fitting after the celebration. And I saw from the art museum steps, I was on my rocky tip, went up the art museum steps. That big Eagles banner was there from where the speeches took place. That served as the backdrop. And then I'm looking into the city skyline, and I'm like, wow, City of Champions. The parade just ended here. The speeches were here. 1.5 million people ended the day right there. There was mud everywhere. They're going to have to regrow the grass all around the art museum because there's none of it left. And it was pretty cool to see the aftermath of all of the destruction. And went by the Rocky statue and took a picture there. But to run in the city in the aftermath of the parade, that was also pretty cool. Just awesome, epic stuff. I still can't believe that it's real, but being in Philly for the parade, it gives you another sense of it being a reality. Seeing the 2 Lombardi trophies on the banner, hanging outside of the link. It's like, wow, Super Bowl 52, Super Bowl 59 champs, ready to run it back. And speaking of that, Eagles season might be over, but their roster did expand from 53 players to 90, and so the team added a bunch of players to their roster on Friday, the day of the parade. Work never stops for Howie and the crew. They made 13 signings according to the NFL's official transaction wire, and so these players will be a part of the Eagles roster going into 2025, minicamp, OTAs, into training camp. So they signed defensive back Tariq Castro-Fields, wide receiver Elijah Cooks, running back Ty Davis-Price, linebacker Dallas Gant, wide receiver Danny Gray, defensive tackle Gabe Hall, defensive end KJ Henry, defensive end O'Shawn Mathis, tight end Nick Muse, defensive back Perry Nickerson, defensive back Andre Sam, offensive tackle Laken Vakalahi, Aussie, oi, oi, oi. That's international exemption right there. So he doesn't count toward a roster spot. Defensive back A.J. Woods. Now, some of these players, a lot of you know about. Tariq Castro-Fields. Look at that cornerback spot. It's possible that Darius Slay and Isaiah Rodgers are not back on the team, so the Eagles will need some corner depth. Tariq Castro-Fields might be able to push for a roster spot, former Penn Stater. Elijah Cooks, big wide receiver at 6'4", 215. Maybe he'll be this summer's Joseph Ngata. Ty Davis-Price, former third-round pick out of LSU, has always struggled as a pass catcher and pass protector, but he definitely has some juice and ability as a runner. I think he would have made the roster if the Eagles kept 4 running backs. They didn't, but with Kenneth Gainwell maybe leaving in free agency, I'd like to see Gainwell come back. I don't think it's going to cost that much. Maybe TDB could end up as RB3 if Gainwell leaves, or RB4 if they keep 4 backs. Saquon, Will Shipley going to be a part of this team next year. Linebacker Dallas Gant. Eagles have some uncertainty at linebacker. Zach Bond, Orem Burks, free agents. Nakobe Dean, Ben Van Sumeren. They both suffered season-ending injuries. So Eagles need to stack up some depth at the linebacker spot. Danny Gray, third-round pick by the Niners a couple of years ago out of SMU, a 4.3 speedster. A little bit small, a little bit injury-prone, but could battle for wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6. Gabe Hall, one of just 2 Eagles 2024 UDFAs, defensive tackle out of Baylor. If Milton Williams leaves in free agency, I think he's going to, because he's going to get 15 to 20 million. Eagles could look for some interior defensive line help. That could be where Hall could step in. Moro Ejoma is going to have a big role next year alongside Jordan Davis. KJ Henry, Brandon Graham might retire. Josh Sweat could leave in free agency. Bryce Huff, not sure if he's a lost cause. And so the Eagles need edge rusher depth. Henry has some NFL experience, 435 career defensive snaps played. O'Shawn Mathis, he'll join Henry in competing for a spot in that Eagles edge rusher rotation. Nick Muse originally joined the Eagles on January 22nd. Now he has a Super Bowl ring. He'll compete for the 3rd tight end job, maybe. Perry Nickerson, journeyman with 3 starts and 30 career games played, gave the Eagles some good practice reps as the depth nickel defender. Could do that again this summer. Andre Sam, he could be coming for that Tristan McCullum safety spot, who mainly plays on special teams. He was a UDFA out of LSU a couple of years ago. Laken Vakalahi, he's the Aussie. I don't know if you can expect him to be the next Jordan Mailata, but under Jeff Stoutland, anything is possible. But the Eagles are definitely interested in his long-term potential as a former rugby player, athletic and massive in size. Again, same type of profile as Jordan Mailata, who's ended up being one of the best left tackles in the game. A.J. Woods will compete for a spot at defensive back. And then these players not retained. Kari Blasingame, the fullback, linebacker Nicholas Morrow, who was active for the Super Bowl, defensive end Charles Harris, quarterback Ian Book, wide receiver Kyle Phillips. But it's possible the Eagles could re-sign any of those players. As for some Eagles coaching news here, interesting stuff. And when you win a Super Bowl, we saw back after the 2022 season, other teams will try to poach members of your front office, players from your team, and coaches from your staff. That's what Kellen Moore's doing. The Saints have requested to interview Eagles quarterbacks coach Doug Nussmeier for the Saints offensive coordinator job. Nussmeier has been with Moore in Dallas, Chargers, and with the Eagles. Jerome Singleton is the associate head coach for Philadelphia and the Eagles running backs coach. He's been with Sirianni since he came here in 2021. And one of the things that stood out to me in the mic'd up, his leadership as a coach on the sideline. And there was one moment where he was on the bench with Saquon, and he's like, look, you might not be having success on the ground right now, but don't let that change your outlook on this game. The Chiefs' defensive game plan has been to stop you. To stop you. That's what's led to us having success through the air. So you have had an impact despite you not putting up big stats because of your presence on the field. So true. And then a couple of other moments where Singleton was just a really good leader on that sideline. And he's a valued member of Sirianni's staff. And so he is going to interview for the Saints OC job as well. And then a lot of the buzz is that Moore is going to hire Brandon Staley as his DC. But the Eagles defensive backs coach, Christian Parker, who Vic Fangio has a long history with, he was retained too, I believe, by Sean Payton on that Broncos staff, and then taken to Philadelphia by Fangio once again, and played a massive role in the development of rookies Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two DBs who were starters as rookies on this team, and players absolutely love him and really credit him with a lot of the success on the defensive side of the ball. When I was talking with some Eagles players and coaches when I was in New Orleans, they spoke very highly of Christian Parker. And so I think he's actually a guy who Vic Fangio could develop to be the DC for Philadelphia once he leaves. But if you're New Orleans, you're not going to win right now. So is Christian Parker a better candidate long-term and maybe in the immediacy as compared to Brandon Staley? Because if you want to rebuild with Christian Parker, who can be your long-term DC. With the Eagles, Vic Fangio has said, yeah, I want to do this for a little while, even though he's in his late 60s. But if Christian Parker leaves, Jerome Singleton, Doug Nussmeier, those are big losses for the Eagles coaching staff. But again, that's what happens when you win a Super Bowl. Other teams are going to try to poach your dudes. As for Lane Johnson, he tweeted out and said during his parade speech, I'm looking forward to many more years to come with the Eagles. His tweet, and he tweeted his speech, nothing but love the past 12 years, and I'm looking forward to many more years to come. Love y'all, Philly. It's pretty interesting stuff because there was some speculation late in the year that Lane Johnson may be considering retirement sooner rather than later. He's been in the league for 12 years. No surprise that the best right tackle in the NFL would start thinking about what he's going to do post his NFL career. But he said to us when we were there at the Super Bowl and before that whether the Eagles won or lost in Super Bowl 59, he'd be back for another year. But now he's saying he's looking forward to many more years to come. Now, a couple of years ago, too, this was after the 2022 season. So this is actually when I was in Arizona for the Super Bowl. And Lane Johnson was obviously getting ready to play in the Super Bowl once again. I asked his close buddy, Jake Laser, what's the future of Lane? And at that time, after Lane kind of overcame those ankle injuries, which that brought about some questions about his future. I asked Jake Glazer, hey, what's the future of Lane? He said, look, now that he's got these ankle issues corrected, he wants to play for a little while. And then he signed that extension with the Eagles. And so this is great news for Philadelphia regardless, that with the way that he's playing, still an elite player, and with the injury issues hopefully behind him with that problematic ankle, even at his age, he wants to continue to play for a little bit. I mean, we're talking about a 6-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time All-Pro, 2-time Super Bowl champion. He's going to go down as one of the most iconic Eagles ever. Still playing at an extremely high level, and he's under contract through 2027. He signed that restructured deal in 2023, making him one of the highest paid players at his position, totaling nearly $81 million, $30 million guaranteed, $18.8 million signing bonus. It's a great sign that he wants to continue to play, and hopefully health can continue to stay on his side, because the Eagles' record with him, insanely good. Without him, they really struggle. And there's a reason for that. He is truly an elite player at that right tackle spot. He's going to be an Eagles Hall of Famer, and he continues to play like this. I think he's going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's tremendous what he's been able to do. All right, wanted to hop on the mic on this Monday. Now that I'm a little bit recharged, didn't put out a video since that parade video on, Friday, but put up a lot of YouTube shorts and whatnot, but needed to rest, reset, recharge a little bit, but we're back at it because now the title of defense is on. I can't wait to look forward to next year. And that kind of starts with the combine next week, free agency March, draft in April, and then before we know it, training camp will be here. Back-to-back champs? Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Let's get it. Thanks for watching the show. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll catch you tomorrow back in the studio at Chat Sports HQ.